Activision's slashing of blobs for microtransactions, well, it sure has revealed something. EA are doubling down on live service gaming. Valve are trying to get out of the money laundering game that they accidentally waded into. Several vats have left Blizzard, and we've also got to remind Blizzard President J. Allen Brack that his company has actually, well, it's done the opposite of what he said they would regarding the policing of people's social media accounts.
Wait, what?
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Roundup. Of course, be sure to like, sub, and ring that bell to let the YouTube algorithm know that you enjoy the content. Okay, first up, a quick Activision story. So, Call of Duty Black Ops 4 is a game that was pretty much renowned for getting extremely evil with its monetization, even putting new weapon unlocks inside its loot crates. This was pretty darn absurd, and it was a pretty darn transparent play to just get people to, like, pull that lever, you know, that loot box lever, that slot machine lever, to try to get the new weapons.
Yeah, just buy more money.
Now, what's very interesting is that with Call of Duty Black Ops 4 no longer being the in vogue Call of Duty, with of course Modern Warfare coming out recently, they've updated it to make it so that reserve cases can actually be traded in for weapons directly. You can trade in 50 reserve cases and just choose a weapon from a list that you want to get. This is, you know, far more fair. It's a direct way to earn those things, and it's pretty darn transparent that they've only done this once, you know, Black Ops 4 is no longer the mainline Call of Duty game.
Right, that way whenever the game's not selling any more boxes, they add in the, you know, direct purchases, because they can look like good guys whenever they do that, adding it into a game that almost has nobody buying microtransactions in it anymore because nobody gives a shit. The issue with games and microtransactions is the microtransactions become more valuable the more people are playing the game. So if a lot of people are playing a game, buying something like a cool weapon or something like that in the game matters more. That's why I think that private servers, for example, fake their populations. Because if you have a higher population, let's say you have a server with, you know, 20,000 people on it, buying a scarabord mount on that server is going to be worth comparatively more than if you're buying a scarabord mount on a server that has 200 people on it, because you have that more to you have that to show off to more people. And I think this is the same thing with a lot of these other larger games as well. Being able to show things off and having cool things that other people don't have, I think is a very big driving force in microtransactions in general, which is why you see a lot of these companies doing them, is because they want to lock those valuable things. They want to give that person the ability to show off and look cool, but lock that behind a paywall. And I think that's basically what happens.
Is of course a massive spit in the face to people who, you know, a month ago, 2 months ago, actually dropped their money into that game, you know, into those cases, trying, or into the crates even, trying to get those guns. And I mean, as much as I would say that, you know, it's a pretty ill-advised decision to do that in the first place, I mean, this is a slap in the face to their paying customers. And it's worth noting there are, like, other components to this update, but this really is the core thing here. And I think the fact that they've been able to so quickly do this, I mean, it really does just expose how transparently silly those weapons being in the loot boxes were, and how much of just a terrible deal it was in the first place. And if anything, I really hope this is a cautionary tale to really dissuade people from partaking in any such loot box system in the future, especially in the Call of Duty franchise.
Sorry, I gotta read this. Have I watched a Jimquisition video on the insidious use of bots wearing premium skins in online games? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. But I do want to see it. If there's a video about that, I will absolutely fucking watch it. Yeah, I totally will.
Then next up, we've got to help out our old friend J. Allen Brack, president of Blizzard Entertainment. You see, he apologized for moving a bit too quickly and being a bit too harsh on Blitzchung, which, I mean, is not really what a lot of people wanted to hear, but yeah, he did confirm that the final decision is the 6-month ban. They're not changing that. Nobody gave a shit. But the side story here that I'm covering today is he said they're committed to freedom of expression, and that their rules only apply to, you know, being within an actual tournament, where they want the focus to be in the games. Well, Jay, I've got to break it to you, but your company actually went on to violate a part of your policy recently.
Really?
So here's what Jay said to PC Gamer. If you think about the people we have that are esports athletes, our grandmasters, or anyone participating in esports, they're free to say and do whatever they want on their social media channels. Well, first, I wonder if QXC agrees with that, but anyway, Are you sure, Jay? Because a few weeks ago, the Dallas Fuel coach posted a tweet in favor of Blitzchung. Now, you may not have seen that tweet because he was later told by the Overwatch League to delete it. So, you know what, Jay? That actually goes in the face of what you just said. So maybe you want to take a look at the internal decision-making there. Now, in the same PC Gamer interview, Jay also talked about the infamous Hearthstone statement on Weibo. Now, he said that they do not publish in China themselves and that they can't unless they work with a local partner. And in this case, of course, that is NetEase. Now, that is the case. He's right there. That is how it works. If you're a Western game dev, you do have to give up a lot of control to get into China.
Of course you do.
Now, Jay said that statement, the one involving the pride of China, was 100% from NetEase. He said this: "We did not authorize it. We did not approve it. We would not have approved it had they asked."
Of course not.
Now, here's the thing. I agree with that bit of Jay's statement. That's good to hear.
Of course.
But they should have said it weeks ago when this actually happened. Yes, NetEase is their publishing partner, but that's it. The IP is Blizzard's. If your publishing partner says something that goes against your brand, against your IP, you should say something to defend your brand. Now,
I would agree with that.
It's, you know, fine for him to say that. It's safe.
I think it's just like, it's a really messy situation, right? I mean, you can't just go in there and fucking say, oh yeah, we said this, but we didn't really mean to say it because these other people were saying it. And even though they're called Blizzard, they're not Blizzard. So it's like explaining that to the public is impossible to do. Like Jay, and like realistically, I mean, think about it like this, guys. Oh, what the fuck? The legs dropped. Is this my bis? Is this my bis? Oh my god. Am I about to win? No fucking way, man. He's ready. He's ready to hit 60 now. All right, let's zone out. Kagri, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it. We have to do it in 5-man because we lose like half of the experience for doing it without a 5-man. And so thank you very much for coming. No, I really appreciate that. More geared than your warrior. I actually think my warlock might be more geared than my warrior, unironically. Love you. I love you too, Kagri. You guys can keep clearing through the instance or just go back and reset. I actually don't care. Just do it. Do whichever mobs you need to do. I also need to do fucking BRD, but I'll do that later. Okay, anyway, let me go back to the video. Sorry about that. I can't believe I got the fucking likes.
To say that it's made Blizzard's stance clear there, but it doesn't mean much because the statement needed to happen far earlier when the story was actually breaking. All they needed to have done was to have said the Chinese Hearthstone account was ran by NetEase, which, I mean, yeah, we all did know, but they should have said that. They should have said they did not authorize the statement and that it's not a reflection of Blizzard's true values. Next, we are well and truly underway with financial report season. Yes, we've got lots of numbers, and we've got a few different sets of them to talk about today. So, Sony have had a decrease in sales for their PlayStation Game and Network Services division of 17% year over year, with overall operating income also down 28%. Now, they also shipped 61.3 million games in Q2, which is down from 75.1 in Q2 last year. Why? Well, mostly the usual end-of-generation slump, but they did see an uptick of PS Plus members, but that said, it was a bit more than they expected. This has led to a 9% downward revision that is down to lower than expected software sales, including the impact of a change in the launch date of a first-party title. So, I think, quite obviously,
it's a pretty big deal.
2.
Oh,
now,
yeah!
We then also have Ubisoft's earnings report.
Delayed
now, this is one, if you were on the channel last week, you would have seen they got ahead on via press release. Now, the core of it is that Siege and Odyssey are doing super well, but that they've got a year-over-year decrease in Q2 sales of 9% and a 5% drop in net bookings, with overall operating income down 93.8% to 7.7 million.
Naturally.
Still, though, with them revamping their internal processes and a strong 2020 lineup, they have really good projected net bookings of 2.9 billion for that.
This would matter to me if I cared about video games besides WoW.
Good for Ubisoft, and I've got to admit, I do like seeing the company take a short-term hit for long-term health and quality. Next, though, it's time to return to the slick corporate bad boy of EA, with their crop of sports titles actually performing pretty well, bumping up their total revenue by 4.7% year over year. Digital has also performed pretty well for EA, with downloaded titles accounting for 50% of sales across consoles, up from 40% last year. Then Apex Legends has reached 70 million lifetime players. Then Foot, FIFA Ultimate Team,
that's
and
a lot.
Holy
shit.
22 and 40%
70 million
in players over last year. So you
God
really can
damn.
see those live services are doing well for them.
What
and
the
on
fuck?
that, well, EA COO and CFO Blake Jorgensen is understandably a bit thrilled. He stated that going forward, they're going to be doubling down on their live services combined with their core franchises. He said that they wish to...
Is live services the new word they use for microtransactions? I want to make sure that I know what's going on here. You know, you have to keep track of all this kind of stuff, okay? Yes, okay, so live services. Okay, see, you know how they just keep changing it a little bit? They just keep changing it a little bit. Okay, yeah, I see how that works.
Invest in games that people are going to play for longer and engage in more deeply, and that their goal is, big surprise here, to drive growth and profitability. What an incredible statement, Blake. Now, what does it actually mean here? Well, they also said that the next Battlefield entry is in fiscal year 2022, so likely Q3 or Q4 calendar 2021, and it's going to have a large live service component at its core, and that Apex Legends is going to be their main shooter through fiscal 2021. Again, it's another live service game. Seemingly, they think that Battlefield 5 Pacific can hold the fort, and another reason is that, well, according to Andrew Wilson, they want to actually wait a year or two for growth in the new consoles, which I think makes sense if you're going to be planting some seeds and you know the soil is going to be a bit more fertilized. Maybe you want to wait until the soil is good, and that's pretty much what they're going to be doing there. Then next up, we've got CSGO key trading. So, Valve have decided to stop letting players trade keys, confirming the newly purchased keys will now be tied to the purchasing account.
That's
and you might be wondering, why am I even talking about this? Doesn't matter.
Probably a
outside
good
CSGO.
thing, right?
Well, the effort was actually made to curtail worldwide fraud networks.
Yeah, it's got to be fraud. I mean, the thing is, like, yeah, having key giveaways is great, but is it worth having fraud on a massive scale? No. Like, of course they were going to do this. I was surprised they hadn't done this earlier. This is, of course.
Who use CSGO key selling to liquidate their gains, and much of that's a quote from Valve. Valve noted that previously the majority of key trades were actually between legitimate customers, but they said that nowadays, quote, nearly all key purchases that end up being traded or sold on the marketplace are believed to be fraud sourced. It's pretty wild, isn't it? Valve's war on fraud is, of course, pretty well documented. This most recent change does come following last year's adjustments to the trading system, which implemented a cooldown period that could actually put an item on hold for trading. Now, this step was, of course, intended to combat the use of automated Steam accounts to basically mimic player trading for fraud purposes. Valve did say that like this is unlikely to affect the vast majority of CSGO users
a 1%
who buy keys
problem
to open containers, but they did admit that there are like some legitimate users who actually will be impacted by it. Still, they are nonetheless adamant that this ban is necessary, a necessary step in their efforts to combat fraud across Steam and other products in general. And that is very important, because if it's obvious that fraud is a major thing on Steam, then...
Well, it's a major thing everywhere. Like, the thing with fraud and, like, games and, like, having so much fraud in these fucking games. You know, why do they have so much fraud in the games? Here's why. It's because people can make money off of it. As long as they can make money off of it and, like, make these fucking keygens and shit. Like, you guys remember back in, like, the Pirate Bay days, right? Where people would try to download keygens and shit to, like, try to get in and get, like, this free stuff. I mean, like, this isn't a 5-head thing. This is literally a 1-head idea. It's nothing that's incredible. Like, yeah, obviously, people are going to try to do as much fucking shit to get free keys and everything like that as possible. So, like, these companies being smarter about how they give out keys and the distribution of the keys is only going to help them.
You know, Steam will attract attention from people who Steam probably doesn't want to attract too much attention from. Then next up, more Blizzard news, as it was last week revealed that several veteran developers decided to leave the company earlier this year. Now, this was around the time that they cancelled their StarCraft first-person shooter and multiple mobile projects
the second
in favor of
they
focusing on Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2, which of course were unveiled at BlizzCon. Now, these departures have notable names. We've got Dustin Browder, the former director of Heroes of the Storm and lead designer of StarCraft 2, which is where I know him from. We've got Eric Dodds, the former director of Hearthstone. Ben Brode actually took his job after that. And Jason Chase, who was Hearthstone's former production director.
At least we didn't lose anybody from WoW.
All these people decided to depart Blizzard and that they wish them the best, which of course makes sense, is what you would say. Now, overall, I think this does make sense, because two of them were working with StarCraft 1, another one was working on an unannounced project. They were cancelled, so it makes sense for them to move on. Maybe they're even working together now, it's hard to tell. Now, that said, I wonder if
Ben Brode was really cool. I liked him.
like a non-compete or snipe clause in their contracts, but I mean, overall it does make sense. Now, I have heard tales of changing culture there from like current and past employees, but overall I can't speak to why these individuals
I've heard
left,
the same thing.
but just think about it from your own perspective.
It's hard to
if
say.
you were working in a game for 3 years, you've been at a company for 10 or 15 years, and then, you know, your big new game gets cancelled, yeah, maybe you would feel like it's time to move on somewhere else and try something new.
Not a surprise
there at all.
We've
got something rather funny, as some of Fallout 76's premium players are caught up in a class war. Yeah, it turns out that having that subscription actually gives you a new player icon. That means people will know if you've paid. And yeah, people with the icon are getting some flack in-game. It's a funny situation. It's
we need to assemble and build gated communities for ourselves. Piss poor 76ers are targeting us. This is awesome.
We sometimes see across other games,
such
as players with store mounts in World of Warcraft having the /spit emote used on them. Now in this case, first players actually get an easier ride, right? They've got more convenience in return for their money, and that's something that no doubt will, well, piss people off. I think it could be a main thrust of the flack that they're receiving. Overall, though, it's a problem that Bethesda will have to address.
There it is, boys.
But in the meantime, well,
that's us.
I mean,
we
it's
did
kind of
that.
Fun to laugh at, isn't it? And then finally, to wrap up today's show, let's talk about some upcoming releases this week. And, I mean, it's pretty darn simple, isn't it? We've got Red Dead Redemption 2 hitting PC, but only via the Rockstar launcher this week. It's not going to hit Epic, Steam, or Humble till later.
Wait, there's a Rockstar launcher too now? Why don't they just give every game its own launcher? Like, just give every game its own launcher. Like, you have to install a program just to play the game. Like, you can't just go to your program files and just click, you know, fucking the .exe file and play it. No, you've got to... Every game has to have its own fucking launcher.
Then Death Stranding also will hit this week, with it having a, I'd say, positive overall reception, but quite a large variance in the individual scores. It seems to be, I guess, a bit of an auteur-ish game. Now, it is actually set to come out on PC, but in 2022, with us not knowing much else past that. So, there you go, that's another edition of the Roundup, one that sadly was held back by me having a cold, but hey, what can you do? So, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you thought about the stories down below, and with that, I will see you next time.
Okay. What's the, I'm actually kind of curious about this whole thing with having bots running around with premium skins. I kind of have to watch that because it's so ridiculous, I actually don't believe it's true. Like, I really don't. Oh, they Butch Knight, you think we're suffering a furry epidemic in gaming? I think that really we're suffering a degeneracy epidemic in gaming, and there's a lot of people in gaming that are furry degenerates, and they want to impress that lifestyle on other unsuspecting normal people. I think that's really what happens, right? Is you have a bunch of weird people that, you know, they think that gaming is great because it's the first place where they can actually pretend to be a dog and people bark at them instead of telling them to get a job like they do at their house with their dad. So it's like you see this kind of stuff and like, yeah, obviously they're going to be excited about being part of that. I mean, I don't like... I don't really care in a way I don't care about furries, but in a way I do. The only thing I don't like is the fact that, like, anybody that plays off, like, any sort of, like, sexual deviancy like that as being normal. Like, it's not normal to want to fuck a dog. Like, that's not normal. That's not normal, like, at all, period, no fucking way. You don't want to do that. Kink shaming? Well, it's not just about kink shaming, right? It's fucking weird. Like, whenever kink shaming involves having sex with animals, I'm going to consider that kind of a little bit too much over the line. Let me see what this video is. Where is this? If I can pause this here and take a look at it. If not, we'll go over to the Diablo video, which is which is the main thing that I wanted to look at. Okay, let's see here. Oh, no. Oh, jeez. Automated bots. I don't know what this is, but I'm kind of curious, alright? Take a look at that.
It is I, Mysterio, Master of Illusion!
Okay.
Look what I can do! Oh, shit!
Wow, congrats! That's amazing. Okay. That's great.
Hey, do you remember when Blizzard suspended a Hearthstone esports player for supporting
No, I totally
Hong Kong
forgot.
during a live stream, and also suspended 2 of the casters who were with him. Do you remember that? Do you remember that? Do you remember how Blizzard hid behind a vaguely written clause that allowed them to do it
Yes.
in a move that looked as if they were placating China,
Yeah.
so many corporations do, because
Yes.
they're desperate for the amount of money that the Chinese market makes for them? Do you remember?
I've heard of that.
Do you remember when Blizzard waited a working week to respond to it and then put out some non-committal guff late on a Friday to avoid the news cycle? Do you remember? Do you remember? Huh, Craig? What's that? Oh, they announced Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2? Oh! All's forgiven then. Why were we ever annoyed? Huh.
Wait, what is this here?
Let's talk about bots. Bots
Activision patented the technique of matchmaking you with people who have paid cosmetics to encourage you to buy them. Holy shit. Now, long video from Noxious about Diablo itemization. Yeah, we're going to watch that too. I want to get into the Diablo videos after this. I just wanted to see this real quick. Yeah, we're going to watch Diablo videos after this. Test your guild's ability to listen and take direction. Yeah, I'll do that soon. We'll see what happens, 8B. Right now, I don't want to deal with it right now, though. I will do it soon, though.
are nothing new.
Good
They've
idea.
been a part of video games for exactly 155 years. They pad out a party in a multiplayer game that doesn't have enough players, like in Ubisoft's classic game that everybody loved, For Honor, where the existence of bots was essential at launch due to the fact that the game's online mode was very, very bad and you couldn't connect to real humans. The issue of bot-filled online modes might be fixed now, and this criticism could very well be outdated, but I'm buggered if I'm going to go back and play it to check. Bots can be sufficient allies for those who lack game-playing friends, or those who simply don't want to talk to real people, which I can understand. As discovered in Left 4 Dead, where teamwork is essential and AI-controlled partners do useful things, like refuse to pick you up after you've been downed when you really fucking need their help. In the Gears of War series...
How does he know that's an AI? That sounds exactly like a normal player. Maybe they programmed the AI to actually behave like normal people. Yeah, this sounds exactly the same.
Co-op AI partners have been incredibly useful for refusing to pick you up after you've been downed when you really fucking need their help. Basically, if you like lying around bleeding out on the floor, bots are there for you. Like they've been there before. Bots are, generally speaking, not as good as human players. You can make a bot with as much accuracy and rapid-fire thinking as possible, but artificial intelligence is still rather simplistic in the video game space. They don't think creatively, they don't improvise, they lack important survival traits like fear that might otherwise prevent them from rushing headfirst into an uneven fight. One day, we'll all be dead and only the robots and the cockroaches will be left to fight for Earth's scorched remains. But right now, AI just isn't good enough to tackle the Rochoidian uprising. On top of this, bots are usually handicapped by design to not outclass human players, which makes them comparatively easier foes in a game. Plus, you know, bots are just weird, inhuman, and behaviourally distinct as a result. All that said, bots can still be mistaken for human players when they're not obviously flagged as bots, and this has come up with a few important games lately.
PUBG
if a
Mobile
bot has been given a username similar to something a human would use, and there's no exterior indicator that the enemy on screen is anything but a fellow player, exactly how honest is that? Does it
seems a little bit weird.
Whether it's honest or not? And how does the presence of anonymous bots impact the game? Fortnite recently kicked off its massive Chapter 2 update, boasting all manner of new features. New ways to progress as a player, a new map, new items, all of the new newness. The moment you as a player get into Chapter 2, you're plunged into the game from a cutscene rather seamlessly, dropped into the fresh map to get a first taste. And when I did this, I immediately noticed something was off. I was winning for one thing. Now look, I'm not terrible at Fortnite, but I'm not a particularly good player either. Almost always surviving to the last quarter or so, but struggling a bit more.
Yeah, I can relate to that a lot.
In this very first game of Fortnite, I won it with startling speed, and the opponents I dispatched along the way were clearly not up to the task of putting me down.
Gem's a god at Fortnite, holy shit.
Staring at me for a few seconds before shooting, if they did, and failing to hit me whenever they pulled the trigger. Every foe I'd encountered in this initial Fortnite round not only behaved as if they'd never played Fortnite before, but as if they'd only just started playing video games at all. I could have met a few human players here. I could not have. I'll never know. They had usernames like any other player, so I could only guess based on their behaviour. In playing further, I've discovered the presence of bots has fundamentally changed the way I approach the game. Before Chapter 2, I'd play slow, careful and paranoid, always fearing a sniper's bullet from miles away.
But yeah, with your bots, you just run out there, dude.
Shotgun round
you just run out there, fuck them.
Now, I'm wandering around the map rather carefree, fearless of enemy resistance until most of the competitors have been eliminated and the truly dangerous foes are all that's left. Now, admittedly, what's also helped is skill-based matchmaking, which means my terrible ass is playing with other terrible asses. But that actually plays into the engagement factor we'll be talking about later, and nonetheless, just knowing that there are automated players in there that are stupid has had a profound psychological effect on the way I approach the game. Now, in one way...
It's the same way. Like, I'm the same way. Like, if I know I'm going up against somebody good, I'll actually play worse because I'll be worried about doing something wrong. But if I play against somebody who's shitty, I'll play much better because I know I'm going to win. I don't know if that makes sense.
It probably doesn't. You could argue that playing more aggressively is a positive trait. And of course, the existence of easier opposition is giving the casual player a better shot at success, and likely way more encouragement to keep playing it. In another way, however, this is a somewhat cheap and deceptive way to retain an audience. Fortnite developer Epic Games has been a little bit shifty,
like having
not
bots
really
and shit like that in
when
game.
It comes to the bot question, leaving the community to speculate, theorize, and cook up conspiracies. One common question that's since popped up is this: how many of our kills in Fortnite have been truly earned in battle, and how many have simply been handed to us on a silver platter by subpar AI?
You thought you were playing with humans? 'Twas but another nefarious illusion.
Okay, dude. Okay, dude.
I've got nothing better to do.
Yep.
Whoa,
same, that's why we're watching the video.
In a really interesting article.
So yeah, I mean, the thing with bots and everything in game is that I don't think multiplayer should ever have bots. The only time that I think multiplayer should have a bot in it, like online multiplayer, is like, let's say you're playing a team game with like 3 people, like Apex, for example, and you have somebody quit out of your game. And if it's a game where people can rejoin into, I think that if they have a bot taking the... Actually, no, that wouldn't even work. I don't know. Probably just don't have bots in multiplayer games. Yeah, never mind. No, because then you can kill the bot and get credit for that. So yeah, just in general, I feel like bots are not very useful. Like CSGO, maybe like CSGO, I don't know. CSGO is the only excuse. Overall, like, there's no reason to have fucking bots in online multiplayer games. It doesn't make any sense except for trying to populate things. So it's like basically like view botting, but it's bot botting. That's what they're doing.
Article on Fortnite bots, writer Carolyn Petit remarked on their eerie, almost horror-like presence in the game, discussing how their inhuman quirks, such as building single walls without rhyme or reason, makes them come off like alien creatures or mixed-up zombies. More crucially, she described the sense of doubt that bots have instilled in her experience. Now, I score an elimination and I experience a feeling of deflation, she wrote. I don't understand what the bots are meant to accomplish. Their behaviour is too rudimentary to help me be better at the game in my encounters with human players. Is Fortnite just trying to stack the odds more in my favour to serve me a victory on a silver platter?
You know what I really think that it is with Fortnite, for example? I think the fact is that people have gotten so fucking good at Fortnite that if you're a new player, you're just going to get your shit kicked in to a degree that makes the game unfun. So Epic thought, okay, well, how can we make people come into the game that are absolutely fucking terrible, right? How can we put somebody who's in the bottom of the food chain in the middle? And what they do is they add in bots that are at the bottom of the food chain that these fucking dog shit ass players like myself can fight against, and I can get a 10 bomb in a game. I hit 10 kills in a game, right? And like 9 of those were bots, and the 10th guy, I killed him at the beginning because I got a shotgun. He didn't get anything, right? Fuck him. But anyway, like, that's why I think they did it. They probably did it because there are so many people that probably start playing Fortnite and they just get absolutely fucking dunked on by somebody who's like, you know, Tfue level of skill, and they have no idea what the fuck's going on. So I actually think this is why they made these changes. It makes sense to me. Yeah, it does. It makes sense.
I won't lie, even with bots, there's some kind of chemical satisfaction some part of my brain gets from scoring 4 or 5 eliminations in a single match. Something that was almost unheard of for me when all my opponents were human. But I don't want the game to give me these hollow ego boosts and empty victories.
It's so sad, man.
I'm terrible at the game.
It really is.
I'd love to get better, but I don't want you letting me win just so that I can feel better.
It's insulting.
And herein lies the rub. Many players have described feeling great about their performance in a game, only to become let down once they remember those kills were probably scored at the expense of dim-witted programs masquerading as people. And that's just those who even know about.
The thing is, like, they can make really good bots. Like, they can make bots probably that can beat somebody in Fortnite. They could probably make a bot, if they spent a long time on it, they could probably program a bot that would never lose in Fortnite almost. And I know they can do that with League, right? They have like a super really good League bot as well. And I think they could absolutely make a better bot than what they have. And I think they intentionally have them to be shitty to make bad players feel good whenever they kill the bots. And then most bad players don't even realize they're bots. So, I mean, shit, most players call the bad